All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us all here. We're excited to see such a full room for our integrated health section. First, we're going to start off with awards and recognitions, and then we'll do our presidential address and then our wonderful keynote speaker. So I hope everyone's able to stay for most of this. First, we're going to start out with the IH Section Abstract Awards. So we had a really fantastic abstract session this morning, 6 incredible talks. And Kelly Armstrong, our incoming president-elect, is going to announce the winners.
Thank you, Heidi. So good morning, everyone, and welcome. We are very excited. The IH section had greater than 80 submissions for the abstract review. We picked our top 6, and they were presented this morning. I, at this time, would like to please ask that our second place winner, Dr. Hannah Farnsworth, please come forward to accept second place for our top abstract of ASMBS. Dr. Farnsworth, abstract, a meta-analysis of pre-surgery weight stigma experience on post-surgery weight, was amazing. Thank you so much. Come on up, young lady. As I forgot to say, there are 2 monetary awards, and they will be mailed to the second and first place winners. Congratulations. They made it easy for me this year. It's not difficult to say the names. I appreciate you all. And our top oral is Dr. Gail Curver. Would you please come forward? Dr. Curver's abstract was hypoglycemia following metabolic and bariatric surgery, evidence from objective and subjective assessment methods.
All right, congratulations, the winners. Next is our Integrated Health Committee of the Year, which this year is the IH Multidisciplinary Committee, very well deserving all the fantastic work that they've done with the mentorship program and their webinar series. So if Brooke is up here, I would like her to come up and get an award for the committee. I think I saw her somewhere here. Oh, there's she. Next, we have our Behavioral Health Provider Award recipient, and this year, very well deserved, goes to Dr. Katie Duncan. All right. And next, our Advanced Practice Provider Award, very well deserved as well, going to Michael Doherty. Come on up, Michael. And then our CBN Distinguished Service Award recipient this year is Ruth Davis. Okay. And then we have Nate San is rotating out of leadership after a long time. So he's been in leadership for 11 years with integrated health. Seems like it's been even more, and he's been just a dedicated and steady leader. And it's not going to be the same without you, Nate. So I want you to come up. I forgot to read my whole thing. And we also have this lovely 11 years.
Thank you.
Okay. And I do quickly want to recognize a couple other people rotating off our Integrated Health Executive Council. So Janelle Coughlin. And Karen Groller, Dr. Karen Groller. Now I have a few distinguished service recipients for IH, and I want to start off with a couple of unsung heroes. So the first one, you might have seen this person quietly moving around behind the scenes at our annual and weekend meetings, making everything run smoothly, although you might not actually know her name, everybody, or what she does. But she is, Karen Lorzal is the Senior Manager for Meeting Services, has been with ASMBS for 7 years, ensures everything runs smoothly. She said the other day as she was directing people, she said this is all like a puzzle for her, and she loves putting together the pieces, and I thought that was just so fitting. I've had the pleasure of working closely with her on a support group committee project. And we're just so incredibly grateful for her steady hand and behind-the-scenes dedication. And I did ask Dr. Nini Peterson, who has worked closely, just to say a few words, too, about Karen, or give me a few words. And she said, as a member, co-chair, and chair of the support group committee, I've had the pleasure of working closely with our staff liaison, Karen Lorzal, for the past 4 years. She has supported us at the monthly evening committee meetings, at weekly meetings for almost 1 year for one of our biggest projects. I can attest to that. That was long. And through regular emails, texts, and phone calls from me, Karen has been our biggest behind-the-scenes champion with her encouragement, guidance, and wisdom. She does all this and handles ASMBS meeting logistics. Karen does everything with grace, and hearing her voice, "Hi, Nini," in that distinctive Georgia drawl, always puts a smile on my face. You're a true gem, Karen, and we're so very grateful for you, and it's definitely deserving of this Integrated Health Service of Distinction Award. So come on. I saw that. Okay, our next one turns out not to be quite as unsung because she did get sung a little bit earlier here. So that is Ms. Ruth Davis. So when I selected Ruth for the award, I didn't know she'd be getting the CBN Distinguished Award, but she very much deserved. So while she might not be quite as unsung, I believe many of our members still don't fully realize the incredible contributions she's made over the past 25 years, much of it without any formal recognition. I've had the pleasure of working with her on CBN exam development, which she has led with quiet dedication for many years. The amount of work involved in writing and reviewing exam items and constructing valid and reliable exams is tremendous, and she has done it with grace, precision, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. And the breadth and depth of her knowledge is astounding, and I'm personally so grateful for her patient mentorship and guidance. So, Ruth, it's with great pleasure that I give you this. Okay, and then last but not least, this one isn't so unsung, but would be Nate Sand. So he's been a steady and influential presence in integrated health since I first became involved at this level. He's consistently role modeled patient, relationship-centered, and supportive leadership, and has been an unwavering champion of integrated health within ASMBS. I, for one, cannot adequately express my gratitude for your ongoing mentorship. Despite your demanding schedule, you have always made time for a phone call to offer thoughtful guidance or sound advice or just kind of talk through things. You've helped countless members get more involved in the society and have been just such a champion of that, and you've had a lasting impact on all of us. You truly embody the spirit of this ward, and it's my great honor to give it to you. Okay. And I think now I'm turning it over to Kelly, and I have no idea what she's going to say. I'm a little worried.
All right. So I am here to thank Heidi. Heidi, who has been our IH section president for the last year. I may get a little teary-eyed, just let me go, do my thing. Just because I've always been taught anytime you're at a conference, you have to tell the whole world, if you have any financial disclosures. I do not, but I have been able to be graciously blessed to be working in this field for over 25 years. And I know that my crew is in the back. FYI, do you see the retirement date up on the board? Okay, just letting you know, just letting you know. All right, so let's talk about Heidi. Heidi, for some of you may know, claims to be the world's most proficient introvert. That's what she claims. But Heidi is an incredible person. She has dedicated a large portion of her career, which we're going to find out is quite interesting, to the ASMBS. She's been a member since 2012 and almost immediately, within a very short period of time, actually joined her state chapter. She's been a past chair of the membership committee, and during her chair, that committee won the Committee of the Year. She has also received the ASMBS Distinguished Service Award. She has been a certified bariatric nurse's exam item writer and reviewer, and also has sat on the exam development subcommittee. And I may be getting this wrong, but are you not? Is that the one you're becoming chair of? All right. She's leaving as president, but taking on other major chair positions in our organization. She is also one of the dedicated group of people who created the fellowship for the ASMBS designation for integrated health, which was the first cohort was just this last year. I know, I'm sorry, but it's cute. It's cute. But one thing I want to say, just because these are really cute pictures and I want to leave them up there. In 2022, when there became a vacant spot in IH leadership, both Nate and Stephanie had a conversation, and they said the most perfect person to take that spot that had been vacated would be Heidi. Heidi agreed to take on the spot to be appointed to the secretary position, which she very, very well sat in, took on immediately. The following year, there were then 2 spots that were going to be open, president-elect and secretary. Because there were 2 spots that were going to be open, Heidi and I both ran for both spots, and whoever got the most votes would win. Funny fact, I voted for Heidi, would win president-elect. Just so you all know, I voted for Heidi. But to truly understand how amazing Heidi is, let's take a quick journey back. Some of these photos you see are from her primary school, secondary school, and college. Even in her high school yearbook photo, it is clear she was always very stylish and had a broad range of interests and talents and a deep well of insight. Her early leadership spark was kindled by her high school debate team, and the foundation is still evident today. Heidi has a remarkable way and ability to consider multiple perspectives and being a level of reasoning that is both sharp and thoughtful. Many of us on the IHEC have expressed deep appreciation of her steady, insightful voice of reason. She gently, and I do say gently, hopefully I've learned that skill somewhere along the last year, and powerfully guides discussion toward the bigger picture. As one of our colleagues have said, you can walk into a meeting with Heidi feeling confident in your position, only to have her raise one of her signature thought-provoking points that reframes everything. Suddenly, you're moving in a smarter, more efficient direction. That's her gift, helping us see not just the obvious next step, but the right next step. As her success on the debate team was impressive enough, Heidi was also the star of her high school production, 1984. I may have stealed this next line from a previous presentation. Thank you, Stephanie. Now, I don't believe that she didn't pick up some pointers on governing from that play, though I do believe she is more inclusive and far less dystopian in her leadership style. Heidi also has some amazing friends. Karen Booth and Stephanie Mueller are 2 of her long lifetime friends. And Karen and Stephanie had shared some words with Stephanie Soggs here, and were forwarded to me, and I was able to share those. They say that they met Heidi in middle school and was immediately clear that she was one of those quietly accomplished kids. Band, choir, every single academic honor. But it wasn't until high school that our circles intersected. They became mutual friends of the drama, club, debate, and marching band. She is always there to listen, support, and encourage. She brings kindness and loyalty to every relationship, whether it's sharing a laugh, offering wise advice, or simply being present during tough times. Heidi's friendship is truly a gift to all who know her. After she graduated high school with highest honors, she attended Gustavus, thank you, Adolphus College in St. Peter, Minnesota. We know she was drawn to their strong science program, but she heard the siren's call of the liberal arts and majored in classics. And what does one study when one studies classics? Greek and Latin. All those medical terms with Greek and Latin roots, Heidi's path to health care was laid out. She became a paramedic and served as an EMT and a responder. And handle all that goes along with that, demanding shifts, outcomes both tragic and amazing, but it wasn't enough. She felt it was even stronger pull toward a career in medicine. Then Heidi became a registered nurse, but her drive and capacity was for more. She helped to establish the Mayo's bariatric program in Mankato. Heidi's friends Stephanie and Karen said, those accomplishments are not what makes Heidi Heidi, at least to us. It is that she does all these things while raising a family, caring for her mom, adopting rescue dogs and cats and ferrets, supporting local musicians, artists, anchoring a killer trivia team, becoming a new owned cribbage tournament player, and serving on the parent board of our beloved marching band, and she still makes times for her friends. Heidi is not only an outstanding IH president, but she's also a clinical nurse specialist who continues to care for the patients every single day. She is honest and uplifting to all who work with her, level-headed in the most challenging situations. Her commitment to improving the lives of patients and the systems that support them is both inspiring and unwavering. But how many of you know she was a pit boss for 15 years? Even though I know this isn't a picture of her actually as a pit boss, I thought it was great from one of our meetings. Heidi also has an amazing love for music. She has been involved with music since her high school days, and she continued that love of music in support of her son, who was in the marching band. And I do believe that there is a special way that Minnesotans pronounce one of your favorite bands. Is it The Cure? The Cure, in Depeche Mode. Heidi's also a researcher and an author. She's contributing to valuable knowledge in the field of metabolic and bariatric care. Her work reflects not only her deep expertise, but also her commitment to advancing the science. Another thing about Heidi is she's not really great about sharing her own accomplishments. She was recently acknowledged nationwide as being in the, oops, sorry about that. How do I go backwards? Where'd it go? Am I going the wrong direction? Sorry, Heidi, close your eyes. There you go. All right. She was recently acknowledged for being in the top 1% across health systems nationwide as having patient satisfaction. That is an amazing accomplishment because that comes from the patients. All right, she's also an artist and a doer. Gets involved in many artistics, and it looks like she's remodeling your bathroom. She's also an adventurer. So Heidi, my biggest question about this slide is, do you actually know where all these pictures came from? Because I stole these from her Facebook pages from all her traveling. These are pictures she took while traveling.
I do.
You do? And what I mean by adventurers, some of you may not know what this is, but those of us in IHEC know it very well. So when we went on our retreat last fall, Heidi was our captain on quite an adventure, kind of like a Gilligan's Island adventure. We went on this really cool little speedboat adventure, and we were probably out there about 10 minutes when the skies went black. And please correct me if I'm wrong, ladies and gentlemen who was there, but some of those waves felt like they were literally going over the boats. We did make it across the big bay, and then we had to turn around and go back across the big bay. I will say some of us were holding on to our life jackets, and some of us were holding on to the rails. But Heidi got us through it. It was quite an adventure. But she's also a pop trivia rock star and a cribbage queen. She's also a discoverer of new species. With the help of AI and her backyard bird feeder, Heidi shares her discoveries with us. Thank you, because we love them. My favorite is the one in the middle, brown-headed cowbird. She's a leader. She has led this IH Council. She has helped the IH membership grow in the last year, but not just the last year, in the last 14 years that she has been involved in ASMBS. She's a supporter and a confidant. I can't tell you how many times I've texted her, and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do about this? Or what do you think about this? Or hey, I got this idea, let me bounce it off you. But the top picture where you see a bunch of ladies there in the middle, and I'm in the very middle, that was a moment that we were at an event, and we were very high, and some of you may or may not know this, I'm petrified of heights. And they wanted to take a picture. Oh yeah, Mike remembers. And we were standing against the glass wall, and I did turn around and all of a sudden almost went into a full anxiety attack because I realized how high we were. And they talked me down. Thank you very much, Miss Heidi. But most of all, she's a devoted daughter and mother. Not just to her son, but also Loki and I don't remember your cat's name, I'm sorry. Sylvie. Several of the leaders have wanted to share a few words about Stephanie. I'm sorry, Stephanie, about Stephanie. Sorry, Stephanie. About Heidi. First one is from Stephanie. You were always a font of wisdom and stabilizing force for me when I was the IH president, and I am forever grateful for your support during that time. Your wisdom and steadfastness has been a big component of what a fantastic leader you have been for the IH during a time of rapid and significant change. From Nini. I have a pleasure of serving with Heidi on IHSCC since 2021, watching her navigate the roles, I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing Nini, especially as president this past year, was watching a master class in leadership. She is Minnesota nice, but don't let that fool you. She has brilliant, sharp as a tack, and is integrated and sense of humor that rivals command attention and respects because of her skills. She leads with quiet confidence. This is because she's read the bylaws 1,000,000 times and comes to each meeting prepared. I do call her when I have a bylaw question. She comes by her leadership skills honestly with being a mom, a nurse, and a casino pit boss. I bet if you went on a trip with Heidi, she would be one who booked the Airbnb, rented the car with some sort of discount, know where to go if I had a flat tire, and know where to find snacks along the way. And then remember to pack a mini first aid kit. Heidi's the person you want at your side. I am so grateful to call her a friend and a colleague. Heidi, thank you for being you and for your leadership in ASMBS IH. Congratulations on a stellar year. From Melissa. Starting in a new position with a volunteer group can be intimidating. There are lots of new information to learn about meetings, protocols, and how the command of change works. Heidi immediately made me feel comfortable in the starting of the new role. Her kind spirit and confidence in my abilities was so encouraging. You can tell that Heidi truly cares about each and every one of our IHSEC members and their professional development. She is a wonderful leader, and I've so enjoyed working with her this year. And then from Ms. Katie Duncan, I am very impressed and blown away because while Heidi is a quiet soul, she is high effective leader who leads with a kindness, patience, and grace. She has a natural ability to steer conversations with ease, seamless, shifting topics when necessary, and bringing focus back to what truly matters. Her leadership is not about dominance, but about influence, earning trust and respect through thoughtful decision-making, emotional intelligence, and the ability to de-escalate tensions while maintaining productivity. Heidi embodies a presence that is both grounding and inspiring, ensuring that everyone feels heard while keeping all of us moving forward with purpose and efficiency. And then from Nate. Heidi is a compassionate, caring servant leader who always puts the interests of her peers down before her own. She has dedicated her leadership to representing all the facets of integrated health. She has a meticulous attention to detail and has the foresight to see around the next curve when advocating for our IH colleagues and their patients. Another amazing fact is that she has a genuine smile and enthusiasm in all that she does. No matter how busy she is always willing to volunteer her time in service to the service of others. She loves to do all the behind-the-scenes work, looking to lift others up and never seeking the spotlight. Let's shine the spotlight bright on Heidi today as we thank her for her leadership and friendship. Do you have my little, do you mind? For those of you who may not know, and some of you may not know what a duck, duck, gray duck is. You guys all know what duck, duck, goose is? Well, in Minnesota, it's duck, duck, gray duck. And one of the ways that we honored Heidi was during our IHEC meeting that we had on Saturday, we all bought duck, duck, gray duck shirts and presented her with one. She said we were gonna play a game, but that didn't happen, so maybe after this one we can play a game of duck, duck, gray duck. But she was also a hula hoop winner. So Heidi, we did bring you a hula hoop if you want to show your skills.
I was like 8.
I know, but you know, hey, I know. All right, I have to find my notes for this one, guys. I'm sorry, because during our IHEC retreat, Heidi showed me a picture of her son. This is her son standing at the ocean. She said she took this picture because he was just standing there, taking in the awe and the sound and the feeling of being at the ocean. She said that standing in front of the ocean, completely memorized by the waves and the sounds around him, just watching and listening, fully present in the moment, she found something powerful in that image, the wonder, the stillness, the connection to something bigger. And later that morning, I actually had the opportunity, while we were walking, to take a very similar picture of her. Standing by the ocean, taking it all in, I felt like it kind of gave a full circle. So I'd like to extend my personal heartfelt thanks to all of Heidi's friends and families and colleagues who shared their messages and stories to help create this presentation. Your reflections added so much meaning and depth to honoring her work and her ongoing legacy. Finally, and most of all to you, Heidi, forgive me, thank you for everything you have done for ASMBS throughout your tenure within the organization and as IH president. Your leadership and dedication has made a lasting impact. I am confident that your contributions will continue to grow and support the integrated health membership, as well as the overall ASMBS organization. You left me some big shoes to fill, and I am so ever grateful that you will continue to serve as the IH past president and still answer my text messages, and I hope I can be half the leader you are. Thank you. All right, let me get my notes out of your way.
Thank you. She's right, I don't like the spotlight, so, but here I am. All right, so I have no disclosures other than that I'm very thankful. It has truly been an honor to serve as your integrated health president this year. I'm incredibly proud of all that our committees, task forces, and members have accomplished together. Your passion, dedication, and resilience have been the foundation of every success. And I also have to be totally honest and say that I'm also very thankful that it's time to pass this off to Kelly. So, to the Integrated Health Section Executive Council, thank you all so much. You have been the anchor through calm seas and rough waters for me this year. Every single person on this council has gone above and beyond to advocate, organize, support, and lift up work on behalf of all of our members. Your energy, insight, and friendship and encouragement have meant the world to me. So I want you all to stand and be recognized. So. Yes. All right. And I forgot to mention earlier, you don't go anywhere at the end. We want to get a picture, so yes. I also want to thank our committee and task force chairs and every person who serves. So the committee chairs are all shown down on the bottom there. Committees are where our ideas become action. They are that take everything that we achieve and make it happen. So your contributions, often made outside of your day jobs, late at night, early in the morning, do not go unnoticed. So I would like everyone that's on an ASMBS committee to just stand up and be recognized real quick. Thank you for everything you do. All right. I feel so confident handing the torch to our next generation of leaders. Dr. Nini Peterson, our incoming president-elect, brings keen insight, calmness, and steadiness, and she is definitely not an imposter, even if she thinks she is. And Kara Horn, our newly elected secretary, brings fierce advocacy and tremendous heart to everything she does. These women will do extraordinary things for our section and our society. And don't worry, I didn't forget about you. You're coming later. So I also want to welcome our newly elected members at large, Amy Roth, representing nursing, and Dr. Casey Goodpaster and Lynn Montague-Didio, representing any discipline. Their perspectives and energy will be invaluable additions to our team. I've already seen their thoughts in action, and I'm very excited. And then a sincere thank you to those rotating off the Executive Council, Janelle Coughlin, Karen Groller, and Sarah Montel. I've truly enjoyed working with every one of you and know your contributions to ASMBS are definitely not over. In fact, Sarah has been appointed to fill the final year in Kara Horan's turn as Kara steps into secretary. So she will be with us one more year. And Nate, it's hard to imagine leadership without you. I've already said that. But it doesn't mean that you get to go out to pasture. So absolutely not. To our ASMBS Board of Directors, thank you for your willingness to listen, to partner, and ensure integrated health's voice remains present and strong within the larger society. And to the ASMBS staff, we simply could not do what we do without you. Thank you for your after-hours Zooms, your patience, and your behind-the-scenes work that keeps us moving forward. And a special thank you to Andronique Boone. You had so many things heaped on your plate this year, but you remained positive and helpful, and I so appreciate all your assistance and all my bug on you all year long, so thank you. And congratulations to this year's FASMBS IH Fellows. This honor reflects your exceptional service within and leadership within our society. So before diving into our accomplishments for this year and the rest of my talk, I want to share insights from our recent Integrated Health Member Survey, because the insights you have shared are already helping shape our direction. So we had 357 members respond to the survey this year. The composition really closely reflects our overall membership, with nursing being the largest group, then APPs, then nutrition, and then behavioral health, but also a growing number of exercise specialists, which is exciting. It's a clear sign that our community is both diverse and expanding, and more voices are joining the conversation. And I do want to just do a quick little call out here to Kathy Tupo, one of our exercise specialists, who's been so active in ASMBS for over a decade and done so much and always willing to step up and promote physical activity education and collaboration. So call out to her. We asked those who didn't renew why. And the number one reason that we got was cost. Now I want to acknowledge that, but also add some context to that. I did some looking at other organizations and actually found that compared to other societies in the obesity management space and in surgical societies, we are typically about half the cost or less. So actually very, very affordable. And that affordability is intentional because we want this to be an accessible professional home for everyone. So just to add context there, I think a lot of people don't realize that. If you signed up for, well, I won't name the organization. I pay more than double the dues for another one. We also asked what keeps you here. So on this graph, the darker the line, the more importance our members placed on something. The top answers were staying current with practice, networking opportunities, and webinars. And they're really the pillars of our valuable membership and things that we have really prioritized this year, even before we did the survey. So it was kind of good validation of that. Members could also provide some free text comments about what they valued, and here's some common themes on here. Another thing that a few people called out, which I wanted to share because I think a lot of people don't realize it, is that as a member of ASMBS, you are also automatically a member of IFSO, which is the International Federation for Surgery for Obesity, and the Obesity Action Coalition, or OAC. So these are benefits that I highly encourage you to take advantage of, and especially with next year's IFSO World Congress happening in Toronto, I recommend consider going to that. It's good to get an international perspective, and then you can keep Kelly company. So, oops, go back. A couple of comments here really resonated with me. The one about being new to the field and this being valuable. I remember coming to my very first ASMBS conference as a baby coordinator and not knowing anything. I was just amazed by the people that handed me their card and said, just call me and contact me. And it was just that instant network of colleagues was incredible. And then the last one, I love the culture and camaraderie of ASMBS. Our colleagues are the best, and I could not agree more. That's really the heart of it, and a big part why I've renewed my membership since I very first became a member. Okay. Then we asked people to rate the overall quality of our member benefits, and it was 85.9% rated them good or better, and what I really thought was great is we increased the percentage of people rating things as very good or excellent by 8 points over the last survey. So it's still work to do, but we're definitely moving in the right direction. And then looking at the overall quality of those benefits, and this represents as people who are aware of and actually using the benefits. So we've got some work in getting people more aware of it and using the benefits. But overall, rating them, as excellent or very good. But it helps us identify opportunities for improvement and things that you can get involved in helping us improve. And then, overall, members feel that their disciplines are being served, but we've got some work to do with more tailored content and greater representation in our scientific program. But your feedback is already guiding that, and you'll hear more about that in a little bit here. Another encouraging shift was the ratings of overall membership value. The lighter blue line is our last survey that we did in 2019, and the darker blue is this one. So you can see the amount of people rating the value excellent or very good has gone up since our last one, which I loved to see. Most of our respondents had already renewed, but those who weren't, we hear you, and we've got to find a way to keep you connected and keep you here. And then we asked what people believe the top priorities for IH leadership should be. The priorities are pretty clear there. High quality educational programming, expanding online resources, best practices, professional certifications, visibility of IH contributions, and strengthening multidisciplinary care. And I can tell you, we had a fantastic IH Executive Council meeting on Saturday, and already have a lot of plans to start addressing many of these areas. Members did also emphasize the need for more leadership opportunities or clarity about how to get involved, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes, and then stronger collaboration between IH and our surgeon colleagues. And work towards these goals has already started in my term, and I know our future leaders are definitely going to continue to build on that. So I want to thank every person who completed that survey, because that information is so helpful. We want to know what our members think. I started out in the membership committee, so I really value that input. And we want to make this society work for you and be beneficial for you. So thank you all. So now I want to talk about all the incredible work happening in our committees, because this is what, we're doing the things that you were asking us. These groups have been hard at work creating opportunities, driving engagement, putting the field forward in meaningful ways. And I think it's important to note, however, that many of the things that came to fruition during my presidency started long before me. Whereas, many of the things I started, it's going to be, Kelly or Nini or Kara that's going to bring them over the finish line. So this year we had an impressive slate of webinars and virtual networking events across disciplines and practice areas, great opportunities to learn and connect. I'm hoping that we'll see another recap of this conference for those that weren't able to come here. The virtual networking series are incredible. Support group has done a lot. The advanced practice provider and their lecture series, and the really important multidisciplinary webinar series on addressing disparities in obesity treatment, and I believe there will be a third installment of that coming out. Yes, so really looking forward to that. And one note, I'm a Central Time person, and so Central Time Zone, I throw everything off in our group. But 13 of our webinars and networking events this year, out of the 13, 9 were held at noon Eastern Time. So, if that's a time that doesn't work for you, just give us that input, because we want to make sure that things are accessible. But also know that, all of the webinars, if you didn't get a chance to attend them, they're actually available on our learning management system for members to go back and watch later. So that learning management system is new this last year. So check that out, because that's going to be a great place to catch up on things between conferences and get that content. Many fabulous publications coming out, either completely from IH or IH in collaboration with the surgeons. So a lot of very meaningful work here. The cannabis use before and after, that was a highly anticipated and fantastic paper in the Wernicke's. But also, the physical activity guidelines, the preoperative patient education, and the compensation survey is out there for all of you. That's something that membership committee worked on. And some other great things will be coming out as well, working on the micronutrient guidelines and a contraception counseling paper. So a lot of good work by IH here to advance the evidence for our work here. Some other things, the IH Mentorship Program had their second cohort this year, which I'm super excited about. We launched the IH Member Spotlight. We're in the process right now of taking nominations, and you'll start seeing those highlights soon. So if you have somebody that you want to nominate to be spotlighted, it does not have to be some big name or anything. We want to recognize our members and their contributions and things that they're achieving that, others may not know about. So in the weekly at-a-glance email, there is a nomination link on the bottom of those. We've really strengthened our offerings at the ASMBS weekend meeting and developed outstanding IH programming for this meeting. This year we have fantastic sessions on physical activity, caring for gender diverse patients, trauma-informed care, perspective of providers who live with obesity, and new installments of the popular Mythbusters and endurance and challenge sessions, and that's just to name a few. And I think one of the biggest lifts this year is the CBN's committee's work for getting the CBN certification accredited. So for those of you who don't know, Magnet certification for hospitals recognizes them for excellence in nursing practice and quality patient care, but it now requires that nursing certifications be accredited nationally in order to be recognized. So it's really important we get that CBN certification accredited, and it's been a huge heavy lift for that group, and they've been putting in tremendous work. So hopefully within the next year we'll have that. Another highlight this year was the launch of the TRIO Foundation's Brian Woodward Memorial IH Scholarship. So this was originally proposed under Nate Sand's leadership, and we were able to get that over the finish line this year thanks to the generosity of ASMBS and the TRIO Foundation. 5 integrated health members received support to attend this meeting. So this is about opening doors, and I hope it's just the beginning. So very excited to see that. And under the visionary leadership of Dr. Lillian Craigs-Dino and her task force, we now have an assessment-based certificate in advanced metabolic and bariatric nutrition, which joins the 2 assessment-based certificates offered for the APPs. So this offering elevates the standard of registered dietitian nutritionists and helps ensure that our nutrition professionals are recognized for their specialized expertise. It's a major milestone, valuable resource for them, and an example of how we're working to meet the diverse needs of IH. And this actually is a picture from the very first cohort taking the course. So it was a great turnout and a wonderful course. And then, so building on Dr. Sog's initiative to deepen the bench, I focused on making space this year. Too often I've heard from members who applied for committees, put down 3 choices, and got passed over by all of them. And I'm like, we can't have this keep happening. This has to change. Because we want to get more people involved, right? So this year we made a conscious effort to expand committee involvement, create more opportunities, and welcome new voices. And I'm proud to say that, so I calculated from the number of people on committees at the start of my term, and then the number of people on now, and we've had a 20% growth in the number of people on IH committees, which I think is tremendous, and I'm very excited about that. So, yeah. And if you're not already involved in committee work, consider applying. And did you know that as an IH member, you can apply to any section committee, or any ASMBS committee. It doesn't have to specifically say IH. So if it's somewhere where you think your talents and expertise would provide benefit to that committee, definitely think about applying. And this growth in committee membership is vital to integrated health, because committee membership is the first step in the pathway to leadership. That people are kind of wondering, what is our pathway? So once you're involved in a committee, you can become chair, you can become co-chair, and it also qualifies you to run for Integrated Health Executive Council. And let me be clear, you don't need to be a big name or come from a major center or have published or been a speaker. I am actually proof of that. So I really am an introvert. People don't believe it. I'm a professional extrovert. So you get me outside of this setting and I'm like, don't talk to people I don't know. But I flew mostly under the radar my first few years as a member at ASMBS. And then one year I was asked to help out with a networking session, which strange thing for an introvert to be asked to do. I'm still not sure how that happened. But the co-facilitator encouraged me to join the membership committee that she was on. And then that same person, who's moved out of the field, unfortunately, and isn't in it anymore, but she was on the Integrated Health Executive Council, and she encouraged me to run for member at large. And I'm like, there's no chance. Nobody knows who I am outside of like the 5 people on my committee. So I didn't think there was any chance I'd get elected, but I did, and here I am today. So if I can do it, you can too. This is your society, and there is a place for you here. So I want everybody to get involved. So as we look forward, I want to address what I am calling one of the other elephant in the room, and this is calling back to our keynote speaker, who we're going to be hearing really soon. There's a perception, one that came through in our survey, member survey, one that I've heard from a lot of IH members and other people have heard too, feeling like IH is losing ground or taking a back seat, or that this meeting just is not focused enough on what IH needs. I understand why many of you feel that way, and especially those of you that have seen the update to the bylaws that was just approved by the surgeons. And so I want to talk about it openly and kind of address that elephant in the room, right? So the bylaw changes were essential to align with nonprofit law, IRS compliance, and governance best practices. But I know that for many in IH, they feel like a step backward, or like, even our existence is threatened. It is not, I assure you. But as we talk about this, I want to put forward this quote from Helen Keller that I just thought, it resonated with me for this anyway. A bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. So let's talk about where we're headed and how we can make sure that we make that turn together. Now, most of you probably don't read the bylaws like I do. I totally meant to bring Stephanie's jokes that I read them to go to sleep at night, and actually got me a sweatshirt that said bylaws Bednarchuk, and I totally forgot to bring it. Yeah, but I'll give you a little recap. So the integrated health specific section has been removed from the bylaws and relocated to IH policies and procedures. It actually allows us to change them up a little easier without actually having to go out to a vote, and that vote would be by surgeons. We wouldn't even be voting on them, so we do have a little more flexibility. It does not mean IH is going away. Not by any means, but you will notice some wording changes. So the names have changed, but the song remains the same, okay? So on July 1st, when the new bylaws take effect, the IH Executive Council, or IHEC, will become the IH Leadership Council. And then the legal guidance was that an organization can only have one president or person with that term. So going forward, the leader of the IH Leadership Council will now be a director, not a president. So Kelly gets to be president for a little bit, though. The change is being made because of that legal guidance. But, the title's changing, but what is not changing is our mission, our ability to elect our own leaders, our 2 seats and full voice on the ASMBS Board of Directors, our committees. IH remains a vital and respected part of this society. And ASMBS leadership and surgeon leadership has reinforced that at every step. So I want to reassure everybody of that. Now, from an organizational perspective, what we have here is truly unique. There is no other surgical society or obesity-focused organization with a full integrated health leadership team like we have, and our dedicated IH committees, our voting representation on the board, and our own dedicated tracks at national meetings. So every session, except for a Tuesday morning, because we have our abstracts in this, there are 2 IH sessions and a collaborative session alongside the surgeon session. So we do actually have a lot of programming. I just don't think a lot of people necessarily realize that. And while I don't want to minimize any of the concerns members are feeling, because I understand where you're coming from and I felt it too, but I do think that context is important to consider. So our board and ASMBS leadership have stated that strong leadership and membership are foundational and critical to our success and to advancing our mission, which for our society is to enhance the well-being of individuals affected by obesity and associated illnesses through the progression of metabolic and bariatric surgical techniques and other medical interventions. And we all know that obesity is a chronic disease that requires long-term, comprehensive treatment and support. Surgery is the most effective tool we have, but it's not enough on its own, right? Our patients need and deserve comprehensive care from nursing, APPs, nutrition, behavioral health, exercise, and close collaboration between integrated health professionals and the surgeons. And as one of your future leaders put it, given the context of the rise of highly effective obesity management medications and some variations in surgical volumes, she said, I firmly believe it will be the surgeons and practices that focus on obesity as a disease requiring that comprehensive care and strong integrated health collaboration who will be positioned to thrive. So we're essential in this field, you guys. So let's just stay strong. So what do we need to do to keep strong and viable? We need to refocus on our core operating principles and objectives. These were laid out in an IH strategic plan, work that began many years ago, and just kind of, during COVID, we had some shifts and things like that. So we're gonna really return to that and focus on that. Our leadership team has already begun working on this, but we need all of you, our members, to join us in that effort. Let's work together to grow our ranks and strengthen integrated health within ASMBS. So we're currently, I had it down as 35%, but I was at the business meeting yesterday, and we're currently 39% of the membership. But think about your bariatric surgery programs at home. Is IH more than 39% of your programs? Yeah, way more. So where are those other people? Let's get our colleagues involved and build our numbers, right? Talk to them, those that aren't involved. Share with them about, what keeps you renewing year after year and coming to the meeting. Share that information and let's build our numbers and build our member involvement and build our reach and get more people joining committees, joining task forces, volunteering. There's going to be opportunities with the learning management system to get more involved. And reach out to your integrated health leaders about how to get involved. We are all very accessible, and there's people down here in the front couple rows. Definitely reach out to them. So we're going to return to our core operating principles, which are make an impact, work together, define success, and communicate. Like I said, we've already got work going on with that. And then our objectives to be a leading resource for education and standards, shaping the national conversation on obesity care, advocating for patients and the specialty, and supporting our members at every stage, and growing the next generation of IH leaders. So that's what we're really going to be focusing on moving forward. So these pictures are taken from our IH leadership team building outing, which she already alluded to a little bit. And they kind of depict how the year felt for me. So when the year began, I knew the sky wouldn't always be sunny. I mean, I'm a realist, right? But I did expect relatively smooth sailing. But then some challenges arose and the water got choppier. Things felt a bit scary and uncertain. And so this kind of picks that this moment felt really intense and overwhelming. But then there were breaks in the clouds, and we're like, okay, now let's refocus our perspective. Yep, there's light, there's where we're headed. We've got this, and we made it through. We did get back to shore, and we were stronger, and we're unified, and we're determined. Said it was kind of like bonding through trauma, but so yes, there were clouds, there were rough patches, but there's always hope, progress, possibility. Together, we weathered the storm, and by working together, I truly believe we'll find that rainbow will keep IH strong. So that's my big message. So I want to thank every one of you so much for trusting me to serve you this year. It's been a privilege and a challenge and an experience I'll carry with deep gratitude. So thank you all. So, as my term comes to an end, I have the incredible honor of introducing and handing the gavel to someone who is not only well respected and admired across the community, but also a dear colleague and friend, Kelly Armstrong, our incoming IH President Director. She is without a doubt going to be an exceptional leader. Kelly brings a personal experience as someone who has had metabolic and bariatric surgery and has been in the field for more than 20 years, 25 years, right? She currently serves as the Bariatric Surgery Program Manager at the Center for Bariatric Surgery at the Miriam Hospital, Brown University Health in Providence. Her knowledge, leadership, and dedication to this work in our field have impacted countless patients, providers, and peers over the years. What really stands out about Kelly is her unwavering commitment to the growth and success of integrated health within ASMBS. She's been a driving force behind numerous committees and task forces, always working tirelessly to move the mission forward and to advocate for our IH members. She's a proud certified bariatric nurse and past recipient of the Distinguished CBN Award. And Kelly, actually, she got an award from her hospital system called the Hurwitz Quality Award during COVID. She won for helping revamp her bariatric surgery program to address those challenges. And she used the funds from that to fund colleagues to do the CBN prep course and take the exam. So she didn't use it for herself, she used it to advocate for other CBNs, which I thought was fantastic. Whether it's helping shape education initiatives or sharing her time and expertise on the IH Facebook page, where, let's be honest, she's probably already answered your question before you finish typing it, Kelly always shows up. Beyond her professional strengths, Kelly is a truly beloved presence within our IH Executive Council. She's like our den mother. She's the first to post a holiday greeting or a birthday message, and always the one looking out for everyone else. And if you're ever walking through the long halls between sessions at annual meeting and end up with a blister, just look for Kelly. She'll have a Band-Aid for you. And she's easy to spot. She's the one with the badge of ribbons that almost touches the floor. Kelly is also unapologetically a Disney fanatic, and I say that with admiration. Her love of all things Disney perfectly mirrors the way she leads, with heart, joy, and a little bit of magic. So Kelly, it's with full confidence and a great deal of gratitude that I pass this gavel to you. I know you will lead us with grace, dedication, and that signature Kelly spirit. So please join me in welcoming your new Integrated Health President, Kelly Armstrong.
Okay. I'm going to do this.
Oh.
So before I become your IHSCC president, FYI, that doesn't happen till July 1st, so she can't go anywhere yet. And then I asked her, since I am going to be technically on vacation in another country, it can't happen until I come back, right? She told me no. But Heidi, in appreciation and immense gratitude, we would like to thank you for your time, your service, your undying devotion to what you have done for the IH membership and ASMBS overall. Thank you. All right, this one is for you. Okay.
And last but definitely not least, and thank you for sitting through all of this. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce our integrated health keynote speaker, Elizabeth Paul. So Liz is a wife, a mom of two, a nonprofit professional, and somebody deeply involved in her community through Cub Scouts, choir, and church. And most importantly for us today, she is a tireless and courageous obesity advocate. Liz and I actually live in the same relatively small Minnesota town, and our sons have participated in the same local, regional, competitive music ensembles, not at different times, but it's just kind of funny, all the parallels. Her son's doing all the things my son used to do. But we hadn't actually met until last year. Last July, after learning about Dr. Rogers' theme for this year of bias, stigma, and access to care, I reached out to Nina Crowley, who serves on the board of the OAC, to see if she had speaker recommendations for this year's IH Keynote. And she actually suggested Liz Paul. What she couldn't have known, and what I couldn't tell her at that time due to HIPAA, though I have Liz's permission to share this today, she was actually on my schedule for the very next day in clinic. where unfortunately at this visit we discovered that there had been an error in our insurance screening process and she did not actually have coverage for surgery. So she brings with just not her experience but perspective as somebody who has lived with obesity her entire life. She understands firsthand the deeply personal and often painful reality of living in a larger body in a society that too often responds with blame, bias, stigma, and barriers to care. She has taken that experience and transformed it into purpose. She serves on the board of directors of the Obesity Action Coalition and also contributes her time to leadership of OAC's mental health and membership committees. And beyond her advocacy with OAC, Liz has shared her story and insights with healthcare professionals across the country. I came across a quote from Liz that I believe gets kind of to the heart of why we're here today. It was, "The science is clear. Obesity is a chronic relapsing disease, so it's time for society to stop blaming patients for their weight and start providing them with options that actually care for their health." And that statement, it may feel obvious to some of us in the room, and yet we all know the culture of blame persists both inside and outside of healthcare. That's why her voice is so important today. Her keynote today, titled "Elephant in the Room," will challenge us to look more closely at the stories we tell, the language we use, and the assumptions we make, not just as professionals, but as people. And after hearing her speak, I think you'll agree that she's helping us all do better, not only for our patients, but for each other. So, with great pleasure, I welcome Liz.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. It is a delight to be with you all today. I do have some disclosures. I have a privilege to speak and serve on some patient advisory boards, and I wanted to be upfront with you about all of those. So we have some learning objectives because I know we always like to learn and be upfront about those as well, but we're going to learn about bias and stigma today and hopefully come across, be on the same page about what we need to do to be the best providers for our patients and for ourselves, because we are people who experience bias and stigma as well. All right, so I will be telling my own story, but bias and stigma happens to everyone who lives in larger bodies, but also anyone with a body. So everyone here, we are all impacted by weight bias and stigma, whether we've realized it or not. And I hope today you become aware a little bit about how bias and stigma has influenced your own journey to where you are today, to how you interact with other people, to how you interact with your family, to how you interact with your patients. So as I am sharing my story, think about your own story as well. This is a time for self-reflection, in addition to me telling you mine. So who am I? Aren't I cute? Like Heidi said, I have lived with obesity my whole life. I am a Gen Xer, so I grew up riding my bike around the neighborhood. I played soccer. I was the latchkey kid who, came home when the bell rang and, didn't really have anywhere to be until I had to be home. But I still had the larger body. I ate all the same foods as the rest of my family, and no one could explain why I was the heavier kid. My mom had plenty to say about it, and when I was in 6th grade, I like to say I was shipped off to Weight Watchers for the first time. Now, that was the first diet I was aware of, but I'm sure she had tried many other things before that. And so in 6th grade, I went to the church basement and weighed in front of all the little old ladies. I don't think they were that old, but they were old to me at the time, and it was mortifying. I learned very early on that my weight was a problem. And it was my problem. And my mother reinforced that message. My doctor reinforced that message. My gym teacher reinforced that message. The kids at school, they reinforced that message. It was a message that was all around me. The magazines at the grocery store, they told me that my body was wrong. Every message that I had was that I was wrong. I was a problem. Now, I am very happily married. I have 2 very adorable children who also live with obesity. They've been dealt a genetic hand, right? But I have dieted my whole life and gained and lost hundreds of pounds. I was once a weight loss blogger. I lost over 100 pounds until I didn't. Because what I didn't know then, but I know now, is that obesity is a chronic, relapsing, multifactorial disease. And so when I ran into my disease, and the weight started to creep back on, I thought it was my fault because I had been told it was my fault. In fact, I had gained and lost weight over the years until the age of 37. It was 37 years into my life that someone first told me obesity was a disease. 37 years. Up until then, I had only been told it was a problem I had, and I was the problem. Everyone told me, eat less, move more, right? So, we're going to talk about that problem, but I am not the problem anymore. That's the problem that we're going to talk about. So, basics, right? We all know, or we should know, what I was told at age 37. Obesity is a chronic, relapsing, multifactorial disease. We're going to start there. Those are the basics. And we're going to start with our basic goal. Our goal as patients and providers is to improve a patient's health. Can we all agree that's a goal? Yeah. Our goal is to move them from point A to point B, of improving their health. Whether that is weight loss, yes, probably, but that could also be mobility, improving their blood sugar, their cardiovascular health. It can be all sorts of quality in life improvements, right? It doesn't have to just be weight loss. But realistically, it probably includes weight loss. But then there's this bias and stigma thing. So we're going to just go over some definitions. Bias and stigma are the unfair and negative devaluation, prejudice, or discrimination about or against an individual or group based on their body weight or size. And there's some slight definition variations, but for our purposes today, we're going to kind of use them interchangeably. And there are some differences of types. There can be explicit and implicit, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And there's different places where we can experience it. We can experience it in the public. We can experience internalized bias. We can experience it in association, whether that is work or healthcare. We're going to be focusing a lot on healthcare. And then we can experience systemic bias. And so for our purposes today, we're going to be focusing on bias in healthcare, internalized bias, and systemic bias. Please note that there's a lot of bias literally everywhere we go. And I cannot possibly tell you all of the ways that I experience bias on a daily living. So we have to focus our goals today. But how prevalent is it? Nearly half the country, 40 to 45% of US adults experience weight-based bias or discrimination. It's the second most common form of discrimination for women. It's the third most common form of discrimination in men. And it's much higher for women, or for people with higher weights than lower weights. The prevalence increases the higher your severity of obesity. This should be no surprise to people. And I'm sure none of this is a surprise to you as well, but there are some common stereotypes that people living in larger bodies experience. That they are lazy, incompetent, unmotivated, that they lack willpower or self-discipline, that they're non-compliant. Have you ever heard that said of a patient? Or that they're personally to blame for their weight. So we have talked that this is the ideal patient journey. We are moving them from point A to point B. But we know the ideal patient journey for a person living with obesity is already complex. Because obesity is chronic, relapsing, and not every tool and treatment works for every patient. And what works at one time might not work forever. But I am going to argue that bias and stigma further disrupt your patient journey. Your ideal patient journey does not look like a straight line. It looks like a tangled mess. And the more bias and stigma a patient receives and experiences, the more tangled a patient journey becomes. Many, if not most, of the roadblocks and hoops your patients experience are going to be caused, triggered, or exacerbated by bias and stigma. And I'm going to explain why. So let's talk about healthcare a little bit. I was at my general practitioner last summer for my physical. My GP knows I have been working to gain access through my insurance to both medical, GLP-1, and surgical treatment. for my weight. At the end of my physical, she says to me, "You know, Liz, I just think, every time I have a surgical patient, they have issues with their vitamin intake. And I just really hate to treat them. And you have to take those new medications for the rest of your life, right? And I just think if you really tried, you could be successful." Now, she is not my general practitioner anymore. But the kicker was that in my chart, I went back and read the notes, and she had written, "I counseled Elizabeth on her weight. She was very emotional." Now, I know quite a bit about tools and treatments for obesity, given that I am now a patient advocate and work very closely with the OAC. I know a lot about weight bias and stigma. And I know how to stand up for myself. So I'm able to share that with you today. Do you think the average patient is able to do that? Will the average patient be derailed from their journey towards greater health by a general practitioner saying that to them? I suspect so. The information on this slide is disturbing to me that I don't even like to read it. That nurses don't like to care for patients with obesity, that they don't like to touch them, that they're repulsed by them, that physicians have less respect, less desire to help them, that they see patients with obesity as a waste of their time. We have done a disservice in our healthcare industry, in our education of physicians and healthcare workers, if this is the treatment that we provide people living in larger bodies. When people who live with obesity experience bias in healthcare, they get less care, they get greater denial of coverage. There's a reluctance to address their weight. Physicians spend less time and less discussions with patients. They blame patients for their symptoms. They have less respect or empathy for their patients. And as a direct result, patients have less communication, follow-through, and adherence. Do you know why patients don't come back? It's because they are afraid of what the doctor is going to say to them. If you want patients to adhere and be compliant patients, you have to earn the trust of your patients in the first place. And the way you do that is you provide them with respect and care in the first place. Now, weight bias is not limited to generalized health care. I want to be very clear. There are specialized bariatric people who exhibit bias as well. Almost a decade ago, I was seeing an endocrinologist, and I was on an early drug at the time, and I had young toddlers in the house. And as I was on this drug, the side effect that I had was insomnia. This drug did not let me sleep. And when I say insomnia, I was maybe getting an hour of sleep a night. And I went to the doctor, and I said, "This is unsustainable. I cannot stay on this drug." And the doctor said, "But you're losing weight. Isn't that what you wanted? Don't you think it's worth it?" And I said, "No." Bias exists at all levels. And whenever we take end goals beyond the patient in front of us, we are still exhibiting bias. Whenever we express preference for certain treatments over what the patient actually needs, that is bias. Whenever we dismiss side effects in favor of results, that's bias. Shame over regain is bias. We have a duty to educate our patients on the chronic nature of obesity and the fact that relapsing is in the definition, that regain is to be expected, and that means that different tools are necessary for us as providers, that is time for us to try different things, not that a patient has failed. So it's important that we also talk about systemic weight bias. For our purpose, the most important one that you need to know about is insurance. Until we have universal coverage of anti-obesity medications, bariatric surgery, and treatment of obesity at all levels in all insurance coverage, it will always be rooted in bias. We do not discriminate other disease states in the same way. The fact that we do so for obesity is because we have, as a society, clung to the belief that it is still somehow the patient's fault and responsibility to overcome their disease on their own. And that it is not an insurer's job to pay for a procedure or medication. And so, as physicians, I encourage you to help with policy changes to provide for insurance coverage. But there's a whole lot of places. There's systemic bias. Gym class? Ugh. Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about internalized bias. So, let's do a little exercise. Imagine for a moment that you have had breakfast and you get into work to discover that your colleague has brought in donuts. Maybe it's their birthday. I wonder what thoughts go through your head when you see those donuts. Does anyone in the room just have a, oh good, I'll eat a donut? Please note, for those of you in the front, there is not a single hand raised. We all have thoughts about that donut. Those thoughts might be, gosh, I don't know if I should have that donut. Maybe if I work out later, I can have a donut. You know, I'm not really hungry. Maybe I'll save it for later. Maybe I'll just take half a donut. Gosh, you know, I had that dessert yesterday, so I shouldn't, right? Like, we have internalized dialogue about food and our bodies and what we should and shouldn't do, right? All the time. These dialogues are part of the internalized bias that we have brought into our systems. I guarantee you, if you put those donuts in front of a 5-year-old, they will either eat one or they will not. But they will not think about it. Because they have not learned that it affects their body at all. Now, there's something good, right, about knowing that our food affects the way our bodies work. But there's something negative, too, in that. There's something negative in the way that we speak to ourselves and the words that we use to speak to ourselves. Internalized weight bias, they are learned behaviors. We aren't born with opinions about our bodies. And they can lead to ideas of negative self-worth. But beyond that, they can help us to stigmatize others, including our loved ones, our colleagues, and our patients. And it can help us prevent us from seeking care and support because we don't feel like we deserve it. And it can lead to real serious mental and physical health outcomes. Now, I'm going to give you an example, and this is real. I am going to go home, and on Wednesday morning, I'm going to step on the scale because, of course I will, because I'm in the process of working to improve my health and fight my disease. And there is a good chance that because I am flying and traveling, that my weight might be up. And I guarantee you that if my weight is up, the first thought that goes in my head, whether I want it or not, will be, damn it, what did I do wrong? Now, that has nothing to do with the fact that I was flying. I was eating out. I was traveling. There's all sorts of reasons. And it doesn't mean that my weight is up permanently or that a few days of hydrating isn't going to fix it. But my first response is one of internalized blame. That initial bias to myself is not something I can undo. It's something I work to undo. But it is ingrained in me. It is something I fight against. Even when I know better, I still have that knee-jerk reaction. And then I spend the day going, you know better than that. That isn't the real truth. But not all our patients know better, because not all of our patients have had 7 years of standing up in front of people and telling them about bias and stigma. So they need you to tell them the realities of what obesity is, and the realities that a weight gain doesn't mean that you've gained weight all the time, every day. My own bias grew from my family, from bullies, from doctors. And it grows from diet culture. Please note, diet culture is not the same thing as intensive behavioral health. I want to make that very clear. Diet culture is the stuff on the internet that preys on people who live in larger bodies and says that to be a success, you have to lose weight. And if you don't, or if you gain weight, you are a failure. And that all diet foods are healthy, and all junk foods are bad. My dietitians in the room are secretly cringing, or not so secretly cringing, because we know it's not that simple, right? There are no easy fixes to a disease of obesity, and any program that is claiming an easy fix is a scam. But internalized bias has consequences. It has consequences on physical and mental health, and it makes patients put off seeking health care. For me, before I knew obesity was a disease, I had severe feelings of failure. And it led to depression, it led to anxiety, it led to disordered eating and binging. And it was true when I was at my highest weights and at my lowest weights. And no matter where I was at, I never felt like I was good enough or I had lost enough weight. And as a result, I avoided treatments and doctors because I thought my obesity was my problem to solve, because that was the message I'd always been told. So there are ways to help overcome internalized bias. We can catch it, check it, and change it. From the esteemed Robin Pashby, if you don't know her, you absolutely should. But notice our negative self-talk, identify common unhelpful thinking habits. For me, I know that anytime I use the words always or never in my brain, that my brain is just lying to me. And then we need to replace our negative thinking with neutral or positive language instead. So we have our weight bias and stigma, and it provides a nice cycle for people living in larger bodies. We have weight gain, and people who have obesity and weight gain experience weight bias and stigma. It leads to increased stress, which leads to consequences in work or school or society or health, which leads to more bias or healthcare avoidance, which leads to more internalized bias, which leads to more weight gain, and the cycle continues. And on it goes. And there are psychosocial consequences of weight bias, which can go anywhere from poor social relationships all the way to depression and anxiety. And there are biological consequences, everything from elevated stress hormones to worse quality of life. The impact of weight bias cannot be denied. It negatively affects people in countless ways. It prevents people from receiving dignity and respect. It prevents people from including basic rights like healthcare, education, employment, housing. It impairs people with obesity from seeking proper healthcare. It impairs healthcare professionals from providing quality care. It's a limitation to the access for treatment, and it hampers our nation's ability to improve obesity care and treatment. So let's talk about action steps, shall we? Let's not leave it in the doom and gloom. Let's bring it up a notch. So, first things first, we have to self-reflect. What assumptions do you have about people living with obesity? I guarantee you know people. One, because you work with people living with obesity. You know me. Hi, my name is Liz. But chances are you have family members living with obesity. You have friends living with obesity. Maybe you live with obesity yourself. What assumptions do you make? Do you stereotype a person's character or lifestyle or health based on their weight? How do you feel when you interact with someone who lives in a larger body? And are you sensitive to the needs and struggles of people with obesity? That's your homework for lunchtime. I want you to dedicate yourself to being an ally for your patients. These are the top 5 experiences of bias-free healthcare, in my opinion. Honor a patient's personal experience and journey. They are an expert in themselves. Have an in-depth knowledge of the healthcare system, treatment options, and the access landscape. It is ever-changing, and patients aren't going to know it. It's your job. Keep up with it. Participate in shared decision-making and goal setting. Weight loss may not be their first goal, and that's okay. Listen and respect the patient, and in the case of kids, their patient's parents, and celebrate the wins, no matter how small. support comprehensive obesity care. In recognizing obesity as a chronic, relapsing, and multifaceted disease, remember, people don't fail treatments. Treatments fail people. Regain is normal and a reason to shift treatment options, not a reason to shame patients. Patients may need to utilize more than one option, behavioral, surgical, and pharmacological options to find long-term success. And the right treatment plan is the one that works for the patient. Finally, well, not finally, speak up against weight bias when you see it. It's not enough to stay silent. Don't let your colleagues shame, blame patients, even in the back rooms. It's simply not acceptable. Speak up against stereotypes. Speak for first-person language, empathy, health, care, compassion. And finally, there are ways that you can help us advocate for change at the Obesity Action Coalition and stop weight bias. It is time we treat all people with dignity and respect. Obesity is not your fault. It is your responsibility. It's a complex and chronic disease, and people should not have to manage the disease alone. People should have access to affordable tools and treatments without blame and shame. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz, for being vulnerable and open and candid and sharing. And we'd like you to present you with this, that we hereby recognize and honor you for doing our keynote speech.
Thank you.
So. Thank you so much.
You.
I really appreciate it. Thank you all. And get involved.